Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. This is a special show because it's simulcasted. You can watch it on my YouTube channel. You can watch it on Larry's YouTube channel. We were both at practice today. We've been at every training camp practice so far. Today was day 10. So we're going to give you not just our impressions of today, our instant reaction to today, but we're going to take a big picture view at what we've seen in the entirety. Starting with the starting quarterback, Brock Purdy. A few days ago, this was 4 days ago, August 3rd, Kyle Shanahan got a question about Brock Purdy's recovery. And it's sort of like, it was a little negative. Like, he's not quite back yet, is he? But is he making good strides and being back? And Kyle kind of got defensive. Like, well, no one's back to the level they were at last year. But, we're not worried about Brock. Brock's the real deal. He wasn't asked. He just put it out there. Brock's the real deal. And I think it kind of set everyone on fire because I don't remember him ever saying that about another quarterback on this team. He never said that about Jimmy Garoppolo, the real deal. And it sounds like an innocuous thing to say, but I wouldn't even say that about Kirk Cousins or Dak Prescott, or I'd say it about Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and a few more guys. Like that's my interpretation of that phrase. So how did you take this quote from Kyle?
That Brock Purdy is
the real deal.
That Kyle Shanahan's smitten over Brock Purdy, and there's a lot of nuances to playing the position that he values that Brock brings. One thing that we haven't really discussed, and I know it's going to make some people just sick to their stomach because they want to, they really believe that Brock's really limited, but there is a chance that Brock Purdy is much better than a backup, much better than a marginal starter. He might be, he's not Mahomes. He's not Allen. He doesn't throw the ball as well as Lance. He doesn't, you know what I mean? There's limits. Right. You can see the limits.
Yeah, he wears them on his sleeve. I mean, they're not hiding. I got it, for sure.
We know he's got some limitations, but there is a chance that this guy is a top 10 quarterback. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to put their arms around because they see the limitations and they're like, I don't know. But what the one thing that we really don't discuss that much is we don't discuss the fact that this guy went on a roll last year and he was a rookie. Right. And he didn't play from August to December, and he did it after sitting on the bench for 3.5 months. And, how much coaching do you get on the bench? Probably not too much. So there's a chance that this guy is, I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers because I don't believe he is, but he's not a backup. And the people who kind of, he's a weak-armed backup. There's just so much more to playing quarterback.
He's a starting quarterback.
Yeah, than that.
He's a starting. So when he said he's the real deal,
he might be pretty good. I mean, he might be a top 10 guy. Doesn't mean he's Mahomes. Sure. Doesn't mean he's even in that. And doesn't even mean that you can win a Super Bowl with him. But he might be a top 10 guy.
Sure, but sure. And I don't disagree with whatever you said, but what he said is a real deal. And when I'm thinking real deal is someone you can win the Super Bowl with. Someone who is going to be one of the best, a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro. A great quarterback. And I'm not here to disagree or agree with Kyle because it'll play out. We'll see.
Right. We're going to see it.
All I'm saying is it's a wild thing to say on the record.
It's uncharacteristic too. It's uncharacteristic.
It's hasty and it's unnecessary. And it's only going to follow Kyle around. If he's right, no one will really remember. But if he's wrong, everyone's going to say remember when Kyle called that one guy the real deal after 8 starts? That was unnecessary and out of character and strange. So I just feel like there's a lot of pressure on him to be right now. You really went all in with Brock when you said that. You're all in with Brock. You can't hedge now. That's your guy. The real deal. How many? Kirk Cousins isn't the real deal to me. No. Dak Prescott, not the real deal to me. Not yet. That's like the upper echelon of quarterbacks. And I'm not saying Brock can't be that, but he freaking better be for Kyle Shanahan's sake because he said that on the record.
Yeah. Crazy. No, he believes in him. I mean, he believes in him. Now, of course, it is training camp, the beginning of the year, a lot of pressure on the 49ers. He knows that Brock's going to be a starting quarterback, so he wants to be all in, right?
It was day 7 of camp, for the record. Day 7. Yeah. Kyle's like, I've seen enough, real deal.
Is it possible that he senses that there's a division in his room among the quarterbacks, that maybe there's some guys who believe that Darnold's better or Lance is better, and that he kind of wants to put that out right there for everybody? Hey, you know what? Brock's the real deal. Or maybe he believes it. Maybe he absolutely believes that Brock is the real deal. I mean, it's also like, how do you define that? I mean, how
That's
is the real deal defined?
What is the real deal?
I'll say this, though. I'll say this. One more thing. Everybody who talks about Brock Purdy, the skepticism is often rooted in Jimmy Garoppolo. Have you noticed that? It's like, well, Jimmy started fast. So if Brock started fast and Jimmy kind of fell on his face and became like almost inept as a downfield passer, then Brock could too, or Brock will too. And I see Jimmy as so much more limited than Purdy. Purdy, Jimmy has a better arm, but quicker release. But look at the big part of Kyle's game is the bootleg game, the short game, the quick game, and the play action game. And Garoppolo couldn't even turn his back on the defense and then turn around and know where anybody was. Brock can turn his back on the defense, turn around, and throw in one motion. So, I mean, they're different as far as spatial awareness and knowledge of the offense. I think Purdy's already kind of demonstrated he's on a different level than Jimmy.
I do think he's a better fit for Kyle's system than Jimmy, because Jimmy can't bootleg and roll out, and Brock can. I think he's in the ideal system for him with the best team around him possible. So he's optimized, and he's a starting quarterback. I didn't bring up this topic to be like, I'm here to tell Kyle that he's wrong. I'm here to tell Kyle, like, you shouldn't say stuff like that on the record, man. You can feel it, but I don't think you needed to say this, because now someone like me, a jerk, is waiting to throw this back in your face. Like, it's a punchline as soon as Brock Purdy isn't a top 5 quarterback in the league. Because again, the real deal is high praise for a quarterback. Is Deshaun Watson the real deal? I don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like, legit. Yeah, like Phillip Rivers was the real deal. Was Eli Manning the real deal? People would argue.
It's like stamping it official. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what? This guy's stamped official. He's a legitimate.
7 starts. Yeah. I don't care what Jimmy did. It's just like, man, you don't know that yet. And you can feel it and think it and hope it and wish it, but did you have to say it? Like, it doesn't even have to do with Brock. It has to do with you, Kyle. Because in 30 years, people could be like, hey, man, remember that time Kyle said that about? What if Brock is just a flash in the pan? What if he's nothing? I'm not saying he is.
It's an eye-opener.
But we don't really know.
It's an eye-opening statement.
It's an eye-opening statement.
And you're right. You're right, Grant. It is the kind of thing where it's putting yourself on the record.
That's what it is. You're putting yourself out there for no reason. No one asked you to. He just asked if Brock was like almost healthy yet. And he's like, oh, he's the real deal. Like, okay, fine. Thanks for telling us that. I hope he is, for your sake.
Well,
and for the 49ers' sake.
Let's put it back in the perspective of football coach talking about football player. What does football coach want in football player? He wants a guy that's all in. Jimmy couldn't even be reached on his phone in the offseason. Brock is a guy that I've talked to about, what do you do the night before games? I go, do you watch movies with your girl? Do you make food? Do you relax? And he's like, hey, you know what? I go over the game plan until I'm really, really comfortable with it. Well, guess what? I guess if you ask Kyle Shanahan, what would you like to see your quarterback do on the eve of the game? He'd probably say, I'd like him to go over the game plan until he's totally comfortable with every aspect of it. So maybe in some ways Brock is an extension of Kyle, and that's what Kyle loves.
I just think it's interesting. I feel like if Kyle were doing this in Philly or New York or Boston or DC, like a big city on the East Coast,
be in the back pages of the tabloids.
Yeah, and he told all those crusty sports writers out there and those angry sports fans out there that Brock Purdy's the real deal, and that's the guy they're going to be going with, like, essentially long term, like they're done looking for a quarterback. I think a lot of people be like, what are you talking about? We want a guy that's the real deal. Like, Brock's good, but is he, like, the real deal implies top 5, like Super Bowl winning, and even you say, I'm not sure he can do that. He could be top 10. I don't know about top. Like, there is some question. I think that's why the whole Trey Lance thing is still a topic, because some people feel like in an ideal world, he could reach this level of performance that only he could get to. I think a lot of fans still want the real deal, and they can feel like, look, I like Brock. He's a good quarterback. He's a starting quarterback, but I still would like to shoot for the moon. I would like to reach a little higher. I think a lot of fans would feel that way. So maybe they're wrong, but that's why I think some fans would be like, the real deal. Okay, I'm writing it down. August 3rd.
Yeah,
August 3rd.
But look what Alex Smith said to Mayoko in Tahoe 3 weeks ago. He's like, you know what?
There's Steve Young too.
There's a lot of factors that go into the quarterback. Your 40 time and this, and there's a lot of things. And he said, at the end of the day, none of that really matters. What really matters is processing, timing, and accuracy. And he said that Brock has it and that he thinks it's sustainable. So, well,
arm strength matters to a degree. It's not like arm strength doesn't matter.
Requisite arm strength is a must. But as far as if you have requisite arm strength, and that was my concern about the elbow as well. It's like, was he going to lose 5 miles an hour off the fastball? Because if Brock Purdy loses 5 miles an hour off the fastball, he might not have requisite arm strength any longer. And so he may not be the same player. But to me, if he's lost arm strength, I haven't noticed it. I've seen throws since he's come back that I thought hung. The Greenlaw pick, the ball down the sideline in the same practice. He's had 3 or 4 balls that I thought, that ball kind of hung. But let's be honest, he had 3 or 4 balls last year that kind of hung. So it's like he's definitely, today was a good example. I thought Brock Purdy played well. I know there are people that can look at that and go 7 of 16, but I looked at that practice and I'm like, Debo dropped an absolute dime. CMC hit him in the hands on a little ball on the far sideline. He didn't even turn around. He
was fully extended.
The other one, Danny Gray didn't hit him on the hands on the out, and he dropped it. Easily Brock could have been 10 or 11 of 16 today. Instead, he was 7 of 16. But it's the way he moves the ball in the move the ball drills and in the red zone. He ran one in today. And that was the other thing. I used to feel better when Jimmy was the quarterback. I used to feel better about the Niners from like the 15 to the 25 than I did from the 1 to the 15, because it's like he wasn't accurate enough in those small spaces to be able to score touchdowns in the red zone, and they kick field goals. Purdy throws strikes in the red zone.
That was a beautiful love letter to Brock Purdy. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was eloquent. My thing with Brock, I'm not worried about his arm post-surgery. I think endurance is an issue, but he's got a month to build it up. I feel like he has the same limitations he had before. When it's 3rd down and they play cover 1 and there's a single high safety and they're trying to take away the middle of the field and they're daring you to throw a fade route up the sideline, which is not a hard throw. It doesn't require a ton of arm strength. All you got to do is hold the safety. You got one-on-one and you got to loft it over the corner. He throws a very low fade ball. And he's tried it every day. I don't think he's hit it yet. Brandon Allen
hit it yet.
Brandon Allen throws the nice fade with the trajectory, and I just feel like Brock's is low. It's always been low. It's always going to be low. Jimmy's was low, and until he proves he can hit that one throw, like he's going to be great on 1st and 2nd down, under center, play action, rolling left and right. But when it's time to sit in the shotgun and face cover 1 on 3rd and 5, he's going to have to hit that throw. And if he can't not ever, but if that's not something he can do consistently, he's not going to be the real deal in the way I see it.
Well, I don't know, because you know what? Shanahan got Jimmy to be like, 70% in the intermediate.
But he ain't the real deal. We definitely know that. And I think the Raiders are finding that out right now. Hilariously.
Yeah.
Hilariously.
He's turning it over quite a bit in Raider
Jimmy's
camp.
not good, but his numbers were great. I just win-loss pretty. It was the team. Sorry. Yeah. I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say that Brock completed 84% as a rookie in the intermediate. That's an eye-opener right there when you think of the percentage of the throws that are intermediate throws in this offense. The other thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, forget Brock for a second. Let's just talk about the Niners and their quarterbacks. They're not going down the field very much. I've seen a huge number of passes to the running backs. Huge.
Allen.
They're dumping it underneath. Everybody is, though. Lance is, Darnold is. They're throwing it to J.P. Mason, TDP.
Well, Darnold is forever.
I saw your breakdown of the receptions. Mason had no receptions hardly at all last year, I think. He had,
like 1 million.
12? now, a 10.
And he had more today. They can't stop throwing to Jordan Mason.
They're
it's crazy.
Throwing it to the backs a ton.
Yeah. Zachary Kelway says, switch Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins into KC and put Patrick Mahomes on the Vikings and Cowboys. Coaches make players. Kirk or Dak would be the what? Pardon? Wow, I'm way off. I disagree with you, Zachary, but thank you for the $5. Sirs, he just said it as a statement, that's how it is. Sirs 11 says Jimmy G was the real deal after 5 games and received $120 million. Calling Purdy the real deal, I would ask for immediate trade if I were Trey. Yeah, that's my only thing with Kyle's man, it's been 8 games. Just protect yourself, man. No one knows anything after 8 games. You don't even know if you're going to be alive next week, but you know that Brock Purdy's going to be the real deal after 8 games. Zachary Kelway again. Brock made his arm stronger in a limited time as a pro. Just give him a little more. He's going to be Tom Brady with legs. He's going to be the greatest quarterback ever. Okay. Thank you, Zachary. Again, I appreciate your optimism and your money. Brian says, if Brock is the real deal, would he go 7-0 with any other team, or does he have to bring the Niners with him?
There's a lot of, and I'll say this to Brian Hernandez. There's a lot of people. If you watched, you read the quotes in, was it Mike Sando's quarterback tears piece?
Right.
There's a lot of
right.
people around the NFL that
think he's not the real deal.
That Brock is a product of the Niners more than than their success is attributable to him.
I just want to say that I didn't want to start this show as a dump on Brock topic because it's not about Brock. It's about Kyle. This is a dump on Kyle topic because that's something that I love to do, and he seems to get a kick out of me doing. So, Kyle, this is for you. Brock, it's not personal. It has nothing to do with you. It's about what your coach said, which was really nice. Grant, I'm laughing too. Krug loves Brock. It's okay.
Yes, I do.
Krug, he does. I feel like
I'm a believer in Brock.
And also, the way you called it so early, I could see how you would take ownership of it. Okay, this is my guy. Because I was first. If there's a bandwagon, I freaking built it. So I get that. I think that's fair.
I'll say this. I did not like him in the draft. When I first saw him in the draft, I'm like, oh, no. But
in person,
watching him, talking to him, seeing what's behind, seeing the competitive fire, it reminds me an awful lot of other great quarterbacks I've interviewed. He reminds me a little bit of Russell, reminds me a little bit of Brady. They've got this kind of they've got this will and this intensity and this perfectionist confidence. I mean, you hear it from the guys. I mean, I talked to Ray McLeod. I talked to Willie Snead.
Okay.
This guy gets in the huddle.
Okay.
I mean, Ray said to me, he goes, you know what? I wasn't paying attention in the huddle one day, and he just sounded me out in front of everybody. So he kind of takes control. And I think that's what
you got to stop. I got to stop you sometimes because you're like his dad now. You're like his dad. We love him. We all love him. Brock's doing great. No, I'm sorry. We are spamming pick 6 in the chat. Love you, Brooks. Khalil Kemp says these quarterback stacks going to hit a little different when the faithful don't have Trey to pick on anymore. Trey is the kicking boy. Is that what they call it? Joseph says, Grant, why you laughing? I agree with Larry. Because I'm a jerk. And that's why it's simulcasted, so you can agree with Larry. 29er says, should ask Kyle Shanahan if he thinks Trey is the real deal. Thank you. Who else is? It's is Brandon Ayuk the real deal? Who else is the real deal? It's a whole new concept. You've never said it about a player. Brock's the real deal. Now I need to know how many players on your team are the real deal. Good point, 29er. Purdy is pretty good at throwing 3 pick sixes in camp. Hey, let's not take shots. Fish and Chip says, I'm back. Game week facts dropping soon. Been a while. Matthew Sanders. Brock got lucky with a few near INTs late last year. He's going up against some of the best defenses this year. Got a feeling ball security will be a question. We're going to talk about Brock again in a second and what we're seeing from him in camp. And Larry's going to say all the things he's doing good. I'm going to bring up my concerns. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. Suki Pazuki, thank you. Glass half full guy. As a fan, I need to see if Purdy can do it for a full season before I decide if he's the quarterback of the future for this team and gets them a 6th Super Bowl. Yeah, I feel like that was the lesson you would have learned from Jimmy. But people who fall quick fall hard. That's how it is. If you fall,
Jimmy regressed. Let's be honest. Jimmy was good early, but Jimmy regressed. Jimmy was at the end,
the real deal.
But yeah, man. Jimmy at the end was atrocious. You could not. He could not throw the ball deep, and he's much better. But he couldn't throw the ball deep, and and I remember talking to Greg Cosell.
He wouldn't throw the ball deep.
He's like, Jimmy's not a good late in the down thrower. In other words, if Kyle didn't call the play and scheme it open for him, he was useless. And then he couldn't throw it outside the numbers, and he couldn't throw it the deep third of the field. So guess what? defenders didn't have to defend the deep third or outside the numbers, and they just all hovered in the box, and he threw him picks, and he was going to get worse and worse and worse.
Tyler says, if Kyle sticks with Brock and the Niners don't make the playoffs, is he on the hot seat? Please start Lance. I don't get the feeling like that Kyle's on the hot seat. I criticize him, but most people, and Larry does, but most people, I feel like the media doesn't. Not that that matters as much, but I feel like the ownership loves Kyle, no matter what, as long as he keeps making the playoffs.
Jed, he's not on the. Jed's the guy who will decide, or Dr. John
or his
and
parents.
Jed.
Yeah, his parents. And I think they hired him. I think they like him. I think they're proud of the hire, considering the ones they had before him. Travis says Jay Mason's still looking strong for the RB2 role. I like him a lot. I also think TDP's making a push, and they're different. TDP's faster. He's more of an outside runner, and Mason's more of an inside runner.
They're both beasts. They're both beasts. If there's one thing that really stands out, it's that they've got two power backs who really are good, and neither of them are McCaffrey.
I Buy Houses Cash says, why can't Sam Darnold be Steve Young and Brock Purdy is the real deal? Where's the Trey praise? He looks healthy. Just trade him, please. I have a theory about that, and we're going to have a Trey section in a minute, so bear with us. Free Fat Kid Kyle has hit his ceiling, no doubt, says Fish and Chips. I would agree. Brother Bob says, Grant, please tell Kevin's dad and Brock's dad, who used perfect and dime to explain BP that 11 to 16 assumes drops are caught, is nowhere near perfect. I like how he's like not even talking to you directly.
It's
like you guys are in a fight. And you're like, can you go tell your father? Can you go tell your mother? Like, I'm in the middle now. Ramelia Sports Report says dumping on Kyle had to chime in year 7, no Super Bowls. He just had to do it. He paid to do it. I appreciate it. Ink Talk TV says, Jimmy got this team and this fan base too complacent with mediocrity. We are officially going to sound like the Cowboys. At least we made the playoffs. These are have those high standards, Niner fans. I like it. Pandango Gaming says, if Purdy flops and they need to make a switch, how does John and Kyle spin it to the media that Trey or Spam was their choice all along? Injury. He got hurt. Setback. They just, his back hurts, his finger, his knee, his toe. It's an injury. That's how they would do it.
I can't picture a world where Sam Darnold is the 49ers' number one quarterback. Just can't picture it.
He also can't picture a world where Brock Purdy's anything but the real deal. I'm sorry.
Right.
Miguel says Kyle better win the Super Bowl this year. No excuse, especially after saying Brock is the real deal. Kyle, you're delusional. You need to be an OC, not a QC. Oh, that's an interesting point. There's a lot of anger there. But another reason you shouldn't have said this, Kyle, is I think it raises the bar and raises the expectations. Your quarterback's the real deal, Kyle. Like, what is your excuse now?
I don't think he's the real deal. Think he's looking for an excuse. I think the Niners are leaning into it's Super Bowl or bust kind of a year. Don't you?
Good. Because it is. Stephen Pryor says, when are we getting a Larry plus Grant episode live at Picking a Pickle? Special guest, Glock, Purdy, and that would be hard to pull off. And I don't know if it would be worthwhile. I think this is better. Ricky Williams, thanks for being a YouTube member. Man, a lot of these. Here's 8 quarters. Darnold season, says Lazy Television. I appreciate it. Andrew Bowe says, I wonder if the Niners have been making more money since Kyle came, and that's why York's like him. No question. They've been making way more money. Kyle's good for business. So have I. So has Larry.
They've been in 3 of the last 4 NFC title games.
Yeah. And they've made a lot more money. Josh Milgram, thanks for the $1. Eddie, BP has intangibles, but the physical traits, that's the question. That's why you put 4 question marks. LZ says, would Trey take heat if he told the media he respects Brock for what he's done, but I could take the offense to another level? Yes, he would take heat. No one on the Niners would support him. He can't do it. Let's talk Brock, then we'll get to Trey. All right. Enough of whether he's the real deal or not. Tell me what you've seen from Brock Purdy in camp. The good and the not so good. And if you want to focus on the good, I can help you out with the not so good. Up to you.
Well, the good and the not so good. The good is that he's still very much the guy that we saw last year. I mean, the one attribute that everybody talks about, well, Trey's a bigger, better athlete. Well, I don't know about, I know he's bigger and I know he's got a bigger arm, but I don't know that he's faster because Purdy runs really well. And today was an example of it. He ran for a touchdown. He also made an incredible play today where he was on one side of the formation, got flushed, ran to the other side of the formation.
That was nice.
Found George Kittle, and from a kind of an odd angle, threw him the ball, and that was a big hitter. I mean, those are the kinds of off schedule. You got to be able to make plays off schedule, and Brock Purdy can do that. So
that's very good in the red zone today, right?
Well, he's very accurate in the red zone. He's accurate.
Yeah,
He's
and he makes
accurate.
plays.
He processes.
And he makes plays late in the down. You talked about that with Jimmy, right? That's a big difference between Brock
Jimmy
and
never did. Jimmy never
did.
And also, here's the real number one reason that Brock's better than Trey and Darnold and Jimmy and all these guys is that if you're going to be really, really good in the quick game, you have to have perfect footwork, and he does. He's got great footwork in the quick game. If you take one wrong step in the quick game, it's a totally different play. He's got that stuff down, and Darnold doesn't, Trey doesn't, Jimmy doesn't. Most quarterbacks don't. And he does, and he's very young to have it down. So to me, that's what I see. As far as what I don't like, I didn't like the ball that hung to Greenlaw. I didn't like the ball that hung down the left sideline on the same day that he threw the pick to Greenlaw. I don't like the fact that he is sometimes late in the middle. And last year he lucked out, and those passes did not get picked off. This year, I mean, he tried. Brock Purdy has got a little gunslinger to him. He will try to thread the needle in the middle of the field, and I have a feeling teams will be looking for those passes this year.
You see that one today off his back foot that Gibson knocked down? That was over the middle to Kittle real high. Like, whoa, that was careless.
I mean, people are going to talk about the pick six today. The pick six was not the bad play today.
It got tipped.
That was a tip pass by Greenlaw, and Gibson's just not tart, so he catches everything back there and runs it back. But in reality,
that one was careless.
The ones that are questionable are the ones in the tight windows in the middle of the field. He's going to have to do an incredible job. I will say this, though. The other thing about Purdy that's kind of amazing, considering he's not that big, he doesn't get as many passes batted down as the bigger quarterbacks do.
Sorry, I just like that you went from a lot of good stuff to like 2 plays that you didn't like to one more compliment. That's how a good dad does it. Just a little bit of feedback and then a little bit more praise.
First of all, this guy's never lost a game.
I love it.
That's not true. I need to see this guy. No, he lost the game. I was going to say he never lost a game that he started and finished. But but I mean, I'd like to see. It's not
a given you're going to finish a game as a football player. That's part of it.
But let's be honest about this. Before he got to Iowa State sucked. Iowa State this last year without him was 1-8 in the Big 12.
I think he was great at Iowa State.
Purdy might have had a little something to do with Iowa State.
I think absolutely. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do the not so good of Brock Purdy.
All right, go ahead.
He has thrown 4 interceptions, 3 of which were returned for touchdowns, and he also had 3 picks drop. So that's 7 interceptable passes in 7 days. I've also counted 6 sacks, and I know other people have more for him. So what I see is a guy who, when he has time, he's good. And that was the numbers showed that last year. When he had time in the pocket, he was like, you said it was like his quarterback rating was like 130 or something just stupid. Yeah. But when he didn't have time, when he was under pressure, I feel like he's under duress a lot, and you can't really tell because it's practice and he's not getting touched. But I feel like he's under duress, and I feel like that's a big reason that he's thrown essentially a pick a day or an interceptable pass a day. And I'm not saying like he sucks or this is who he is, but I'm not sold on this offensive line, and I feel like he's gonna be under duress a lot this year, and I'm a little concerned about him getting hit and the turnovers as a result. That's where I'm at with Brock.
I hear you. I'll say this on Purdy. To me, one of the things that makes him good is also one of the things that I worry about. He doesn't have appropriate fear.
Not at all. He's bored on the field.
He's not afraid of the defenders. He's
just so calm.
And he's gonna get starched if he doesn't get rid of the ball a little sooner. And I also have those same questions about the offensive line.
Yep.
But I'll say this about camp picks. Okay. Alex Smith never made any. You have to in practice test your boundaries to see what you can and cannot do.
It's true.
You show me a quarterback that doesn't throw any picks in practice. That's not a good thing.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I mean,
we're going to get to him in a minute, buddy.
More times than not, that means you're not taking enough chances.
Which he's not doing.
Yeah. And I think that's a problem.
I'm with you on that. So I'd rather have a quarterback do what Brock's doing, which is to say, because he's throwing those shots up the sideline every day. Is he going to do that in games? Not if he doesn't hit them in practice, but he's at least trying to hit them in practice, which is what you're supposed. That's what practice is for. Meanwhile, right. Sam Darnold is literally practicing checking down 1 million times a day, and we're going to talk about that later. It's not about Sam yet.
Sam Darnold had a rough day today, in my opinion.
We're going to get to Sam in a minute, but Brock, my question isn't that like he's regressed or that he's not the same. I think his limitations are there, but so like, is he going to hit the deep shot down the sideline? I don't know if he ever will, but these turnovers and these sacks are things that I'm worried about. He's a little guy. He's coming off an injury. Can he hold up? Does he get the ball out of his hands quick enough? And is he going to start, there were a lot of picks that were dropped last year. If the luck turns against him and he loses a few games because of turnovers, can he withstand that? Will he still be the real deal? Or will Kyle all of a sudden go to Sam Darnold, the next Steve Young? I don't know. But that's what I want to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's somewhat fair. I mean, I'll
also say, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll also say that, the turn, like, to me, there's one thing to worry about with Brock Purdy, because he's going to get smarter and better and more knowledgeable and everything, because he hasn't been in the offense a very short amount of time. But the one question is, if he's lost some zip and he can't
have zip to lose. He didn't have zip to lose. Yeah.
He doesn't have zip to lose. And if that will lead to guys breaking more on his ball, turnovers will be obviously cost them from winning games. That to me is the big issue with him. I know he can process. Does he turn it over because he's trying to make play after play after play?
Fish and Chip says, message to the Yorks, 29 years. I'm going to tell him.
Been a long time. 1994.
They've actually been longer
95.
than the Cowboys. Jorge Luis Sotelo says, GFT 305, Jets, I'm getting worried about the quarterback position. Maybe Trey Lance should start since he is eventually going to lead the Niners to the Super Bowl versus the Bengals. Thank you, Jorge. Bobo 0383 says, I'm cautious about Brock because of Cap and Jimmy. The common denominator of injuries changing their trajectory after fast starts. I get the divisiveness of Cap, but he put up decent numbers at the end, though. I think there's more of a carryover with Jimmy, though. Like, they both had hot starts. They both had serious injuries. And the Niners bet on Jimmy before the injury. And the Niners don't necessarily have to bet on Brock yet because he's not up for an extension yet, but Kyle still said he's the real deal. So now, when he's up for an extension, his agent can be like, well, he said he's the real deal, and so that's going to be $45 million a year. Thank you. That's what I would say if I was agent.
Something happened.
Kyle said it.
Something happened to Kaepernick along the way where he started not making football a priority. And
maybe he's becoming super rich.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know if he decided.
If I was super rich and handsome and young, football would not be a priority for me.
I think some guys are good at football and they don't love it. Some guys are good at a sport and they don't love it. I get the sense that Jimmy was kind of that way. That he's good enough to be in the NFL, but does he really live and die? Does he breathe? And football? I don't know. Yeah. Probably not.
Probably not. I would think not. Russ Button says, after last season when Purdy was asked who gave him the most help, he said it was Trey. Niners can't keep a healthy quarterback. Trey will get his chance to play. One thing I noticed with Trey on the field, he's always giving like Sam Darnold a high five. He's very I saw this today. They did that little drill where the quarterbacks, shuffle back and forth over those like pads on the ground. There's four pads.
The two finger right. High five. Is that what you're going to say?
No.
So Darnold did one of these. Like, hey,
no. This is even better. So they have the four pads on the ground, and they have to quickly go to the next drill. And there's some ball boy.
It's called the gauntlet.
Sure. There's some ball boy whose job is to get those pads off the field. Trey
helped the guy get him off the. Yeah.
Helps him. That's Trey, man.
Trey's a good guy.
It's like, Trey, that's not your job. Like Trey, it's also but also lock in. Like lock in, dude. That's not your job.
You can help the
but it was very nice. Yeah,
that's Trey. Trey is a great guy.
Yes,
that's part of the reason the Niners
He's almost
loved him.
Too nice. Yes,
he might be.
But no, got you. Josh says, if Trey Lance gets hurt somewhere down the line, what would the Niners do? Trade him, cut him? Would Trey being injured change your opinion on the problem? Man, that's a tough. I'm
not understanding where he's going. Do you?
If he gets hurt, he's on the bench right now. He's not even playing. Yeah, he's been hurt. I don't know, Josh. That's a tough one. Brother Bob, Kevin's dad, when did you adopt Brock Purdy? Kevin?
It was August 4th.
Kevin, are you... PB report is same as Drew Brees took rook scouting report. Brock Purdy report is same as Drew Brees rook scouting report. Well, I mean, Drew Brees was a high second round pick, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Just saying. I mean, I don't know. Wave 9 says, Grant, is it possible to ask Kyle this question? Is Trey competing for the starting job? And if not, then why is he on the team? I know you can't ask that, but I'm just curious as to why.
Well, Kyle would view that as very argumentative, and the answer, and then he would come back with a very snarky. Of course, he's competing for the starting job.
Well, everyone's competing for a starting job, right? Yeah. Fans, this team goes how the D-line goes, not quarterbacks. D-line and running backs. How about that?
We'll get into that later because I got a lot of concerns on the D-line.
Paul Newland, Grant, great to see Grant and Larry for another Niners season. We got the real deal and reincarnation of Steve Young. No need to overthink it. They also have Brandon Allen. Trey Niner says, why are you so hard on Purdy after what he did last season? His arm doesn't need to be strong. Brady never had a strong arm. Trey, I love Brock Purdy. He's my favorite player. I have his jersey too. Okay, let's talk Trey Lance.
Okay.
What have you seen from Trey Lance in training camp, the good and the not so good? Let's start with the good.
The good, I mean, the first one's obvious, right? His ball last year wobbled like crazy. Yeah. This year, he throws a tight spiral all the time. There's no wobble. It's all gone. So was that the finger? Was that Christensen? Was that, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but good. Okay. Because I'll say this. The drop percentage of Trey Lance last year was 10%. It was like the third highest in the entire league.
Rookie year too.
You cannot throw a high-speed wobble. I don't care.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. You could have the greatest receivers of all time. The hardest ball to catch is a ball that's hot and wobbling. That's impossible to catch in bad weather. It's impossible to catch in wet weather. He had to eradicate that. He had to throw a better ball. He does. That's one. Mm-hmm. 2, I see a guy who obviously knows the offense. It's like taking Spanish 1, and then you come back and you take it again in summer school. Well, when you take it in summer school, now you kind of know Spanish 1, right? And you're like, you kind of know it a little bit better because you're taking the course a second time. He's taking Kyle Shanahan 1.0 a second time. And so he knows the offense. So he knows where to go. He's not under mental duress. He knows where to go. He knows the progressions. He knows what he's doing. And then I see a guy who throws all of the deep cuts, all of the intermediate passes and all of the, 20-yard ins and outs, everything that you can throw on a line, he throws better than every other quarterback on the field. There's no question in my mind. He throws it better. He throws it harder. He throws it as accurate as any of those guys. So that's what I noticed. The downside is
Can I add a couple things to the goods?
Yeah,
Let me add a couple, and then we'll do the
and also
together.
One last one. When in the move the ball drill, he is running at appropriate times for first downs. And he now, after watching Purdy, I think understands that you don't need to have all this and that. You just need to keep getting first downs. And then eventually when you get to the goal line, punch it in. Points will determine who the best quarterback is. And he's playing a kind of game right now that will lead to points.
Love it. Okay. A couple more things to add to the good before we get to the not so good. I believe his release is just quicker in general. Not only is he throwing a better spiral, but the ball is coming out of his hands quicker when he decides to throw the ball. He went from having the longest release on the team to maybe the shortest, which is nice. I think he's better at the short throws in general. He's not perfect. He's not the best. Like Darnold and Purdy are both better at the short throws than Lance, but Lance is much better at the short throws than he was last year. And I think he's just more accurate in general. And I think it's fair to say that he's made as big of strides between last year and this year as anyone on the team.
No doubt. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
He's the only thing I don't like what I'm seeing is he still throws from the same arm slot all the time instead of, sometimes you got to go
robotic.
Sometimes you gotta be Mahomes. You gotta shuffle pass it. You gotta do whatever it freaking takes.
Be natural
to get a first down. Right. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it looks like. All that matters is the results. The style points mean nothing. And he's struggling on it's like guys who throw really hard and have a great arm oftentimes struggle with command when you have to take a little off. And that's what I'm seeing is that when he has to throw at 60%, he sometimes throws it high, sometimes throws it low. Sometimes he airmails it because he doesn't follow through like he did at Debo. Other times he throws it at a guy's feet. That's the throw that he knows he doesn't throw well. And I think it's in his head a little bit still.
I think he's a little bit like Alex Smith or like Carson Wentz in the sense that they came from these small schools where everything was perfect and they had time and the guy was open. They could see it. They could throw it. And I just feel like his internal clock is still a little slow compared to Purdy and even Darnold. Like, I just feel like I always want the ball to come out. Well, not always, but when he's not clicking, I want the ball to come out a beat early and like he's checking down a beat late. And I don't know if it's hesitation, lack of confidence, not knowing what he's seeing, not trusting what he's seeing. But when he's on, there's a rhythm to his game that matches Purdy and Darnold. And when he's off, I feel like he's the one hesitating. And I feel like maybe that was his body clock on the field at North Dakota State. I think he had all the time in the freaking world to set up and throw from the same arm slot. And you can't do that anymore. So I think that's always going to be a work in progress for him, just like the internal clock.
Yeah,
that's
a good point. I'll get one more too. It takes a long, people don't necessarily get this one, but it takes a long time to understand the nuances of your receivers. Have you noticed who he looks best throwing it to?
Tay Martin, Chris Conley.
Tay Martin and Braden Willis. But I mean, Tay Martin, and who did he work with in TCU? Tay Martin. I think he's got a confidence about Tay Martin's ball skills, his catch radius, his size.
He's just worked with him.
His instincts. They have repped.
Time on task.
They've repped it. And so he looks really good going to Tay Martin.
Yeah, good call. This is a little bit different, but like what I see with Trey, I don't see a guy who's happy. They were talking about, Kittle said something earlier, like during OTAs when Trey was QB1, they were saying, man, he looks confident. He looks happy. The happiest he's looked in a long time. Now Brock's back. And Trey's over here in this like weird competition for QB2. And I don't know that he's winning it, even though he's like improving. And he doesn't look happy to me anymore. His body language looks weird. And to me, like the fact that the Niners are praising Brock, he's the real deal. And Sam, he's the next Steve Young, but not Trey. It feels like a breakup. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. It feels like they want to break up both sides. Trey wants out. The Niners want to get rid of him. But they both kind of want to blame the other side for the breakup. Like it's not our fault. It's Trey. Trey sucks. We did everything we could. Trey just isn't good. And Trey's trying to be like, no, I went to Jeff Christensen. I'm improving. They gave me the wrong coaching. They ruined me. And I feel like they're both kind of like trying to play this game where they're blaming the other side. I wouldn't be surprised if Trey asked for a trade and the Niners said no. And they're not really interested in pumping him up and making him look good because they're going to break up eventually. Like he's out. But they just need to make it look like it's Trey's fault first. Trey just didn't work out. We did everything we could. And Trey complicated the issue by saying, actually, I just got better. I just worked with Jeff Christensen. You didn't tell me to do it. It was my idea, and now I'm getting better, and now you're in a tough spot. What are you going to do? Are you going to cut me? Are you just keep me? You're going to shelve me? What are you going to do? So I think it's an interesting little dance they're doing. That's the way I see it. A little dance.
It's funny that you mentioned, I don't see it that way quite. I see it like,
it's okay.
Last year was about Trey and this year's not about Trey.
Nope.
And you see it, there's no read option.
Nope.
There's, I get the sense, in some of the
warm-up
throws when he's throwing to Greasy, he threw one today in the back of the end zone and Greasy kind of made him, it was a little bit off to the side and Greasy was went incomplete kind of a thing. Like, I don't know if it was too high or whatever, but I think Greasy's giving him a little tough love. I think Shanahan's giving him a little tough love. I think he senses there's a difference in the whole agenda is not geared towards him. And it's like, they're challenged, but guess what? That's okay. This is football. They're challenging you, Trey, to get better. They're not, I think there was maybe a little bit, and I don't know Trey, and I don't know the Niners, and I don't know how they handled them. But maybe last year was like, hey, this is like this awesome job that you inherited. And this year it's like, no, you're not inheriting anything. You're going to earn it. And maybe he senses that. And maybe they're not resentment, but maybe there's a little like, okay, you guys are about you, and maybe I'm a little bit about me. But he's getting an up close look at how cold and hard the NFL world really is.
It's extremely cold and hard. And I think what he was expecting, I think he's a reasonable guy. He's like, look, I understand you handed me this job and I got hurt and Brock played well. I don't expect you to hand me the job again. I expect you to give me an opportunity to compete for it. And I think the Niners are like, yeah, all right, we'll give you an opportunity to compete for the backup job, kinda. And I think he feels like, wait a second, you lied to me. And I think the Niners are like, well, we don't owe you shit. Sorry. We gave you $22 million. We gave you opportunities. You didn't do anything with it. Brock did. Deal with it. So I think there's a little bit of like animosity. I'm guessing. It just feels like Sam's so juiced to be out there. He's got this pep in his step, and Brock's so freaking confident all the time. And Trey just looks like he wants to, like he needs a hug. Trey looks like he needs a hug so bad, and I want to give it to him, but I would get my credential taken away if I tried.
That would be awesome if you just went and tried to hug him.
Trey, come here. Yeah. Come here.
You know, I think he changed. I think he sent, and this is just me standing on the sidelines in the middle of heat, sweating, observing this. But I think he senses there's a new world order. And it's like, hey, you want it, go take it, and we're not handing it to you. And you know what? Maybe that's the way it should be. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing because look, the guy's improving, and he's improving dramatically. Now, are we going to give all the credit to Christensen? I don't know.
Let's give the credit to Trey for buying in and doing the work. Because last year, I don't know. What we saw from Trey last year was Trey on Instagram, Trey in a new fit, Trey taking pictures of himself, Trey at a club, Trey making it rain. And it wasn't a good look. And now we don't see any of that shit. And what he does look, I can't help but notice, he's much thinner in the face. Much thinner in the face. Which to me means probably better diet, whatever that means. You know what I'm saying? A little more locked in. I can't help but notice he's way more locked in.
This is why I like this guy as a franchise quarterback, because I think he's going to check all the boxes. If football's not important to you, you know, you go do whatever the hell you want. And you're like, I got the money. I've already secured the bag. There's all kinds of guys. You know, Ben Simmons doesn't work at shooting free throws. Right. Why? Because he's got $147 million in the bank. And he's like, I've already won. What do I need this for? Trey's not about the cash. Trey's about being a great quarterback. It's a testament to his character. And so he's working at it. I think it's actually, I'll say this too. I like what they're doing this year. I didn't like running Trey Lance. I didn't believe in quarterback power running between the tackles. Play Trey the same way you play your other quarterbacks. Let him play from the pocket. And if he makes it or fails, let him do it from the pocket. Do not turn him into Larry Zonka meets 2023. It's not sustainable. He's going to get hurt again. It doesn't play to his skill set. I like the idea of making him play from the pocket more than snapping it to him 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and say, hey, you're Marcus Allen. Go find a hole and slither up in there. No, I don't want to see him slither up in there. I think this guy can play from the pocket.
Me too. And I don't think he's going to be Anthony Richardson or Lamar Jackson. I'm with you. He needs to be a guy who uses his legs second. Trey Niners says, why are you so hard on Purdy? No, I'm not. I did that. Can you tell us a question you really want to ask? No, sorry. I don't know what you mean. Caesar says, the fact that Trey Lance has been able to retain his reworked mechanics in a short time is impressive. This kid will be good NFL quarterback, probably not with the Niners. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I don't.
You don't think it's going to happen with the Niners?
I don't think it's going to happen here. No, I just don't feel like they're into him and that he's into. I feel like they're breaking up and both of them are done with each other. And there's a little bit of like animosity, and they can't figure out how to make it official that they're done. But the Niners are like, it's Trey's fault. We like Brock and Sam better. It's nothing we did wrong. We gave Trey every opportunity. He's just not good. And Trey's like, you didn't give me any opportunity. I got hurt. You gave me the wrong coaches. It's your fault. And I think they're just trying to they're doing that.
Well, you know what?
I think the Niners are also a little scared to get rid of him because he might just be.
I think they're a lot of scared. I think they should.
Yeah.
You know what though? Dorian Thompson-Robinson, is worth more today than he was last week at this time. Why? Because he played in the Hall of Fame game against the Browns, but that's the NFL.
Jets.
If Trey Lance's trade value could be right here, but if he lights up the Raiders for 3 touchdowns and runs for a 4th and completes 72% of his passes and looks phenomenal, there'll be people literally on Monday morning going, we'll give you a third, we'll give you a second, we'll give you this, we'll give you that guy. I really
don't know
believe
about
it.
that, but it would help. It would definitely help. Flave says Grant's daily training camp stats are high-speed wobbles. 55% of the time they're accurate, just like Trey. Flav, every single comment you make is about that kid, man. You need to seek professional help, okay? You are obsessed. It's an obsession. You are a grown man, okay? Obsessed with a 23-year-old quarterback. You need to talk to someone about it because it's not about Trey at this point. It's about you. All right? I'm just trying to help. Justin says if Brock throws picks like this consistently versus the Raiders, what would the team do? Would they pivot or just hard-nose it into the wall? This happened to Jimmy Garoppolo 2 years ago. Jimmy threw like 15 picks in camp. They didn't care. They're riding with Brock. He's the real. Didn't you hear him, Justin? The real deal.
And by the way, when you say picks like this, today's pick that Brock Purdy threw was a tip ball that went far down the field and Gibson picked it off. Lance's pick was a bullet right into the chest of Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. I mean, every pick is not like every other pick. Brock Purdy threw 4 picks last year. 4.
Yeah, he's thrown 4 in camp. Fish and Chip says blocking scheme is led by tight ends, running backs, wide receivers. Watch out, quarterbacks. Watch out, quarterbacks. I hear you, Fish and Chips. HR says, I may be slow, but I got it today. Kyle never wanted Trey. It was a Lynch pick. No. Kyle wanted Trey and then lost interest immediately or quickly. I think he lost interest when he broke his ankle. I think he saw him as a dual threat quarterback, and now I think they haven't installed his own read yet. Maybe they'll do it next week.
I don't think he lost interest in Trey. I think what happened is that as time has gone on and they've fallen short, even though the Niners, Kyle would never say it, John would never say it, I think the ownership said, hey, look, enough excuses about lost seasons because of quarterbacks. Get it done. I think they applied a little heat. And so why are they all in on Brock? They're all in on Brock because Brock's timeline jives with win now timeline. Trey's timeline he may be able to win now, but most likely his timeline's more like a year from now, 2 years.
I don't know though, but if Brock comes up short again, you could always be like, man, he's 23 and he's coming off a UCL and he's still really young. Like, I don't even know that Brock does, but I guess he does more than Trey. I guess I'll say that. Niner Oregon says, can you ask Trey if he's still having fun with football while competing for QB2? Yeah, he'll be like, yeah, I'm super excited to play football. I'm having a super good time. This is so much fun. I love playing for the 49ers. It's super great. That's how he does it, right? With his deadpan face.
It's super fun out here. Media stuff right now is very
tense.
What's the word? Kind of uninvolved. I mean, like emotionally uninvolved.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to show how unhappy he is the way I see it. Brooks says, nowadays, analysts want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they're trolling for clicks. It's a bunch of gibberish, and the Niners act like they forgot about Trey. That was well done. A nice little allusion to Eminem from Forgot About Dre. Bang, bang, 415. Trey need a hug before every practice. What's up, Krug? I'll give him the hug. A designated hugger, the DH. You were looking good at practice today, Grant, says Jed York's wife. Thanks. I'm going to get in trouble for that. Appreciate it. Matthew Sanders says the only way Trey works out here long term is if he has the chance to play and win games, and being a good, great quarterback, that opportunity may never come. On the other hand, it could come to all the quarterbacks this year because of Colt McKivitz. Sorry.
6 years in a row, by the way, outside of 2019, the Niners have used 3 QBs to get through the regular season.
3.
Odds are this whole discussion of who's going, who's starting, everybody's going to get their chance here. I
almost want Trey to win a Super Bowl next year on another team just so Grant can ask Kyle post-game questions. Hey, Kyle, is Trey the real deal? Sir's 11. Thank you very much. Kurt Garrett, I think the talk about Trey needs to focus less on his potential ceiling and focus more on how his floor is rising. What can he do now versus
that's a good point.
Year 1 and 2? The short throws. He's got a much better stroke for the short throws. It comes out quicker. It comes out softer. That's a big deal. Big deal.
He's a much better play. We're going to see it in the preseason. We're literally days away from seeing it. He's a much better player this year than last year.
Yeah. It's too bad he didn't get with Jeff Christensen years ago, but everything in its right time and place. Joe E says, I want Trey here, but if he got traded, freed, would Terry McLaurin and Young for Debo and Trey be realistic? I don't want Chase Young. I feel like he's damaged.
I don't want either of those guys. You want Scary Terry and Chase Young? I'd rather have Montez Sweat.
Isn't it interesting how all the comments are about Trey, whether you like him or not? The people that don't like Trey talk about Trey. The people that do like Trey talk. He's the backup quarterback, maybe third string. and he still dominates the conversation.
Well, because everybody, there's, Niner fans were told this is the next face of the franchise. They spent more to trade up in that trade than they've spent in any trade ever. And that has a lot to do with it. There's a lot of people going, wait a second,
we've been waiting.
I know you're on to this other book, but I'm still focused on the last book that we haven't reviewed yet.
We never even saw it. NG49 says, if Kyle really believed in Purdy, then get rid of Lance. Quit hedging. But, he breaks everything. I don't trust Kyle and Lynch with quarterbacks. Show me. I think that's fair. Kyle, show him. Prove them wrong. That's
and
NG49.
it's also not they're not going to move off of Lance for a conditional 5th-round pick, and nor should they.
No, you shouldn't. No, nor should they. Ink Talk TV says, Grant, I'll be in Pittsburgh to witness this real deal. Hope to meet you. Beer on me or a shot. Sorry, but I have no faith in the last pick. Sounds good, man. Hope to see you out there. Thank you for the last one. J.R. Beckold says, when I see Brock, I see a young Tony Romo! Exclamation point. Last year's stats from Brock don't lie. Buddy. That seemed like a passive-aggressive buddy. Like, he doesn't really think I'm his buddy. I was going off the field doing my post-game, my instant analysis, and someone from the stands was like, boo, Grant, go home. Pretty funny.
I heard that. Pretty funny. It was even funnier was you had 2 teenagers walking behind you, knowing that you were filming, trying to get in the back of the video. Tight. They're like, the guy's like, come on, man. Come on, walk behind him.
We'll get some views. Niner Faithful, ride with me. What's up, Grant and Larry? Thank you, Travis King. All right, let's talk Sam Darnold. We're running out of time. Maybe not. We won't belabor the point, but what are we seeing from Sam, good and bad? The good and not so good.
I don't. Grant, this one's tougher. I think this. When you've been in the league for 5 years,
Steve Young,
you are kind of what you are. I don't see Steve Young at all.
No,
I see a guy who has some good skills and is probably going to be better here than in other places. But he still seems a little frazzled under the rush. Today he rolled right, and then he realized after he threw the pass that I think there was a flag thrown for a illegal man downfield because it was a screen.
He ran, right? No, he ran past the line of scrimmage.
Oh, was it? He ran past.
He ran past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so it's things like that. I think his natural feel is a little iffy.
And that was the play after he checked down to Ty Davis Price for 2 yards on 3rd and 7.
Yeah, there's some disconnect that's preventing him from being a really good player. He'll be better here, and I can see why they were intrigued. But and I know he's super enthusiastic. He's like a new lease on life. I asked him a question the other day. I go, what is the difference in practice reps when you know you're not going to get hit and the game reps when you know you are going to get hit? And he was like, yeah, I mean, that's the position. And in a lot of ways, it was a dumb question, but I wanted to hear him kind of verbalize the differences, because to me, when he is being chased and he's going to be hit, I think he's a different player than the practice player.
Yeah. And I also think he's sort of gaming the system. Like, this is practice. He knows how he's going to be judged. And instead of trying to test his limits and work on his weaknesses, he's trying to win the day. We talked about this earlier, but I feel like Purdy's attitude is, I'm a gunslinger. I'm the starting quarterback. I'm going to work on my weaknesses, and I'll live with the results, even though it's in front of fans and media. Purdy's attitude is, I've been through the NFL before. I've done this before. I know how to look good in a training camp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check down immediately. This has 2 effects. One, the reporters are going to say I was 8 for 11, and they're going to say my completion percentage, and it's going to be really freaking good. And 2, I'm not going to throw picks because I'm checking the ball down to running backs immediately. So at the end of it, people are going to tally up the stats and be like, damn, Sam Darnold completed 70% of his throws and threw no picks in camp. He must be great. When no, he was gaming the system the whole time. That's how I see it.
Well, I will say this. If he doesn't turn it over, the guy's got 90 turnovers in 56 NFL games.
The turnovers are coming,
If he does
baby.
not turn it over, I think he's got a chance to be decent NFL quarterback.
He's going to turn it over.
But I guess I just don't have the belief in Sam Darnold. I didn't love him at SC. With the Jets, I think is an unfair evaluation. But he'll be better here. But Brock's got real. Here's what I notice. there's two guys out there who look confident, Brock and Brandon Allen. Trey doesn't look confident. Darnold doesn't look confident. They look talented, but not confident. Allen looks confident. Brock looks like a swagger of confidence. Confidence is a big part of playing quarterback.
Yeah, it's a huge part of playing quarterback. And I don't know that he has it. I feel like I don't really take what he's doing seriously. Let's talk about the defensive ends and get out of here.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa isn't there, so we're getting a real good look at Cleveland Farrell, Drake Jackson, Taco Charlton. Austin Bryant made his training camp debut today. What do you think of the Niners' depth at D-end?
This is the scariest part of the 49ers, in my opinion, because I talked to Kasarik the other day. I said, are you going to play your ones a lot more? He's like, no, I cannot run my ones out there on the D-line 70 snaps a game. They won't be standing in January and December, and when we really need to fight this thing out in the playoffs, they won't be alive. And then Drake also had some kind of injury today. I don't know if it's bad, but I saw him in the end around to Debo kind of look a little gimpy.
Good call.
And so I'm a little concerned about Drake. And just look at the number of snaps that you're going to be asking Drake Jackson to play this year compared to last year. The other issue is I looked it up. There's 1,331 snaps that walked out the door with Amenahue, Ebukam, and Jordan Willis. And they've been replaced by Robert Beal, who's not practicing, Kerry Hyder, who's a great guy, but a little long in the tooth. Alex Barrett is looking like one of their better edge rushers. He was on the practice squad all of last year. Austin Bryant, I don't think is going to be able to play the run. Dalen Hayes is not the answer. Taco Charlton was running with the ones today. He got off a plane 3 days ago. Their lack of depth at defensive end is startling. They're going to have to do something. And I did a video on this on the Krug Show on different options, both in the trade market and in the free agent market. In the free agent market, you got Jadeveon Clowney, Melvin Ingram, Jason Pierre-Paul, Alton Robinson, Robert Quinn, Carlos Dunlap. In the trade market, you got Boogie Basham, Bryce Huff, Chase Young, Jerry Hughes, Clavon Chason, Dorrance Armstrong. Dallas is the team to watch at the cutdown because Dallas has DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Sam Williams, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Junior Fehoko, Tyrus Wheat. They got 7 defensive ends. They won't be able to keep them all. They'll probably have to cut a couple. The kid from San Jose State, I'd sign him. Tyrus Wheat, the Mississippi State kid, if they cut him, I would sign him. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting on Peters and Lynch to see if they can replenish and improve this defensive end depth, because the reality is Chris is a great coach, but he's not a miracle worker, and he's not going to be – Cleveland Farrell has 10 sacks in 4 NFL seasons. Based on what I've seen, I think there's a chance they wind up playing Spencer Wagee at defensive end opposite Bosa on first and second down just to limit the snaps that Drake Jackson's going to play overall. Otherwise – I think they got a real problem here. I know Hargrave is an upgrade on what they had last year. It's an awesome signing, but they cost themselves depth, and their backup DNs matter. I think it's a concern.
Would you say that Spencer Wagee is the real deal?
I think he is. I think he is. I like Spencer Wagee. I'm a Spencer Wagee fan.
I'm going to make that joke the rest of the year. The real deal joke. I can't
He's
stop.
the real deal.
It's all because of Kyle. All right. The funny thing is, like, I like the Niners backup DNs, but then I got to remember who they're going against. Like today, Austin Bryant
had a good day today.
Sacks.
Austin Bryant had a good day. Today was his best day.
He went against like Matt Pryor, who's awful, and Leroy Watson, who's been an offensive tackle for like 12 months. So who's doing it against the starters? Like I know Brock Purdy's under a lot of duress, but I don't think it's coming from the DN spot. I feel like it's coming from up the middle, Hargrave, Armstead, those guys. But I don't know.
I mean, the only 3 DNs that I'm seeing, I stood down there and watched all the one-on-ones. The best DNs were clearly Alex Barrett, Taco Charlton, and Spencer Wagee. And Wagee's more of a tackle. But, I mean, those are the other guys. Dalen Hayes, no, he's not getting it done in the one-on-ones. Beal hasn't practiced in a week. Hyder looks like a little long in the tooth. Who was the guy you said
before Beal? Who?
Robert Beal Jr.
No, the guy before him.
Dalen Hayes. They just signed him from Notre Dame.
I had no idea he was in the team. Wow.
Yeah. He's a Notre Dame kid who played for Baltimore, but I mean, they were just, Daryl Tapp was just yelling at him all day today.
Niners rule says, hey, Grant, forward this money to Flay for his therapy. No, it's more than $20, $250 an hour. Ink Talk TV says, stop with the Sam talk, please. Carlos says, Sam is a bust who lost his job to another bust. Papa Phil says, Grant didn't even stutter versus that heckler. Real one. Thank you. I tried my best. Fish and Chip says, something missing Darnold cognitive processing. Yes. Michael Alaniz says, Kyle, we've seen the Real Deal movie before. It doesn't end so well. I'm not falling for this again. In regard to Purdy, he ad-libbed those 8 games like Jimmy did his first 5. I liked when he ad-libbed today that play, he scrambled to his right, came back to his left, and hit Kittle across. That was nice. That's my favorite stuff when Purdy does that. And we've seen him do it before, where he just goes back and forth. I only see that in video games, where you keep the play live that long.
I mean, if Ayuk had made that catch in the corner of the end zone, what game was that?
Legendary.
What game was that?
I forget.
Was that playoff game?
Was it week 18? I think it was the one against the Cardinals.
I don't know, but it was a flat dime in the corner, and Ayuk, it was on his hands, and he dropped it. I mean, that would have been the signature Purdy move right there.
Mike, I'm not reading that, but thank you for your $2. Ink Talk TV says, hey, Larry be like Trent Williams is a great player. He's a future Hall of Famer. But Brock, give him a break. But yeah, Refugio Gomez says, who's the best running back on the team other than CMC?
Ty Davis-Price.
Ooh, why?
Because Ty Davis-Price is 230 pounds, and he's been able to get to the edges against the NFL's number 1 run D, and he's got these sharp cuts, and he runs over his pads. He's making people miss. He looks terrific. Heck, Chris Forster, you were there the other morning, right, when Forster told us that TDP is a man on a mission, and he looks like it. Brendel was talking him up. I mean, I love Mason too, but and obviously Mitchell's nice because he never fumbles, always maxes out every rep. But there's something really special about TDP. I saw the LSU Florida game where he rumbled for 287, and that guy's got a lot of talent, man. He's got a lot of talent. And now the fact that Lynch said he showed up in the locker room at 5 o'clock in the morning, Forster's touting his work ethic. Anthony Lynn told me, if you like this guy now, you're going to love him in a month. He's 230 and looking faster than last year.
I like him.
Be really
I'm still going with Jordan Mason. I like Jordan Mason for all the reasons I liked him last year, and I think he's really improved as a receiver. I think he's a nice receiver. Anyway, that's what we got for the day. 69 super chats, which is so nice. Thank you very much. Nice. And like 2,000 people watching the whole time. Hell of a show. Maybe we should simulcast these from now on. Up to you, Larry. It's been interesting.
Seriously, we'll do it.
I think we should.
I gotta have my kid figure out what buttons to press. But once we got all the right buttons pressed, it's gold,
You're good
baby.
Until Kevin goes back to college. You're good until Kevin goes back to college. Once he goes back to college, you're screwed.
I might as well just just get a transistor radio and sit on
Kevin,
the curb.
help!
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
Thanks,
Kev,
everyone.
Dad.
We got practice tomorrow, then day off
we'll
Wednesday, then joint practices. See you guys.